Last little scare. Good afternoon, gamers, and welcome to Joystick Jam on Facebook Live. It's my absolute delight to be here. It's your source for esports news, updates, and any type of exclusive content. I am your host, Thomas DeBost, and with me, as always, is my good friend, Brandon Breeny.
Thank you, Thomas. It's been a very busy week in the world of esports, which we'll get into in just a moment. But first, we'd like to announce that here in studio today, our special guests, Laura Walzak and Shane Talbot, to discuss the rise of the outlook of the future of this industry known as esports.
That's right, Brandon, and I'm very excited to see what they have to say, but they aren't the only guests that are going to be on our show today. As I sat down and kicked it with Colin Darling this past week, and we tried out FIFA 19. Spoiler alert, he didn't even stand a chance. Also, coming up later in the show are some of the latest highlights around the tournament circuit, as well as some of the month's worst lowlights. So be sure to stay tuned because you do not want to miss these misplays of the month. And after securing the rights to use the Champions League branding in FIFA 19 last year, it's no surprise that EA is introducing an esports tournament for their flagship game. This tournament's final will take place the day before the actual Champions League's final, with over $280,000 in prize money up for grabs. Brandon?
And that's not only the big news this week, as Overwatch took the crown for Esports Game of the Year at the 2018 Esports Awards ceremony. Blizzard's hits game had itself a monumental year as it saw the inception of the Owl, as well as the highly successful introduction of city-based franchising.
And it appears that Ninja is still our industry's top dog, as he also took home 2 awards, Personality of the Year and Streamer of the Year. Personally, I think it should have been me, but you know, there's always next year. Also, be on the lookout for Console Rookie of the Year, Kenny Williams, whose impressive play in Call of Duty bagged him his first esports award. Back to you, Brandon.
The money that these players have brought in is just one of the many reasons that more and more celebrities have been investing in esports recently. Within the past month, both Drake and Michael Jordan have invested heavily into some esports organizations, as Drake now co-owns 100 Thieves, while His Airness will be joining Axiomatic's board of directors, alongside Ted Leonsis, the owner of the Washington Capitals, and Wizards, as well as the LA Dodgers and Golden State Warriors owner, Peter Guber. Now, let's throw out the FIFA Footy Talks featuring Colin Darling, where Thomas somehow got lucky and managed to pull out a win on a much better, more experienced player. Thomas decided to go with the most decorated side in English football, Man United, while Colin chose the old lady, Juventus.
So, one of the big topics of discussion as well at Man United is, Paul Pogba. He's been under a lot of scrutiny as well. A lot of people have been wondering why he can perform so well for France. World Cup winner, scored in the final, was absolutely outstanding throughout the whole tournament.
I mean, when I watch a Man U game with my dad, he's often the guy carrying the team. To be honest.
Exactly.
So a lot of that criticism I believe, is unwarranted.
Oh crap! Oh, second 10.
Woo! I personally, Pogba doesn't want to be there. I mean, he's playing. They have a really good team on paper, but as we've seen over the past couple of seasons, it doesn't mean anything for Man U. It really doesn't.
Oh, what? Well, that's what I've been feeling for Man U. It's not that he's not performing well. It's just you can see he's just kind of sick of being there.
Just asking you a question. Do you think he has legs for the end of the season, or like?
That's also going to be tough, I think, because I mean he was monstrous at the World Cup. He was running all over the place. I think he started every single game except for one. Oh, he's onside. Lukaku.
No.
Oh
That
no!
was a colossal miss.
No! Oh! So, since we're playing in the Champions League, it just so happens that they're actually in the same group this year,
Yeah.
which was obviously a big storyline of Pogba returning to Juventus Stadium. Let's see. Oh, top bins!
Douglas Costa.
I mean, if we're gonna talk about Juventus, we're gonna have to talk Ronaldo, First of all, I was wondering, why do you think Ronaldo moved to the old lady? I mean, a lot of people were wondering, he was winning everything at Real Madrid. They won La Liga a couple years back.
Yeah, I don't know.
Nice shot.
I think Serie A is a good league for him because it fits his personality, and it's in a sense it's similar to La Liga for sure, because there's teams that sort of run the table.
No,
in a
that's
sense, whereas the Prem is more hotly contested, and I don't think that suits him. But I think he's definitely in it for the challenge. He wanted to escape Spain.
We can't really talk about Ronaldo and the fact that he moved to Juve without these very recent rape allegations that, could change everything for him. I mean, that's a real life changer right there. Obviously, we're not going to delve into any sort of accusations, but what do you think that could change for him?
Those kind of allegations, huge in the news right now. One of arguably the biggest athlete in the world having these accusations against him. It's terrible for his career. He, like I said, he's probably the biggest athlete in the world, and anything like this against you you have to treat seriously.
This game is in the history books, and Juventus have claimed all 3 points from their opening game of the Champions League season.
Well, it's everything you want from the start of match one. Good, strong start. That result will give everybody confidence, especially the players. Well done.
Anyways, that's all the time we've got today. I'm Thomas DeBost with Colin Darling. We had a great time, played some FIFA. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys soon.
Once again, like to thank Colin for coming on to our show, as his knowledge of the game is second to none. His FIFA skills, on the other hand, could use some work. Regardless, it was a pleasure having him. Although I think that last segment had all of the highlights in the world, we have even more coming up right now, starting with the Red Bull Conquest. Brandon?
Yes, we now take you to the final moment of Red Bull's Guilty Gear Finals, as Dot Nova, playing as Jacko, looks to cap off his impressive tournament with a win. Moving into Game 4 of the finals, and it was all Dot Nova as he defeats Lost Soul without breaking a sweat. And here's a look at the final tournament bracket that Dot Nova dominated from round 1. And now moving on to last night's DreamHack Atlanta Grand Finals, where the Buzz and his trusty Rosalina would take on Tweak, who was playing as Cloud. Game 1, both players with 1 life, and the Buzz finishes off his opponent in impressive fashion. The Buzz was in the zone and feeling it, easily taking out Cloud in game number 2. He would be hoping to complete the sweep in game 3, but Tweak, up 2 lives to 1, commits the suicide play to push the series to game number 4. And Tweak, down big in game 4, looked finished, but he dodges Rosalina's final smash to force a sudden death 5th game. He was absolutely rolling in the series finale, taking advantage early by cornering the Buzz and simply waiting to strike. What a comeback from Tweak to take the crown at DreamHack Atlanta.
I'm joined by our 2 very special guests today. We've got Professor Laurel Walzak here, expert in sports marketing, and Shane Talbot, head of esports for MLSE. You are the GM also for the Raptors 2K Uprising team. Thank you so much once again for being here today. We really appreciate it. My first question really was just, for those of us that don't really know too much about esports, maybe I'm going to start with you, Shane. What do you attribute the rise of esports to? How do you think it's become this big today?
Yeah, so esports, you need to look at it in a game-by-game, lens, right? It's just like, there's a rise of football, the rise of hockey. Esports in general would be more analogous to sports as opposed to football or hockey independently, which have their own reasons for success. So I think, the 2 things you need to really attribute this to are, 1, a platform called Twitch, which started off as Justin TV, which is all about live streaming. And when they saw a niche in gaming really take off and they pivoted to being focused exclusively on gaming, it just was demonstration of the size of the audience potential. Prior to that, there had been some experiments that were through linear TV and through other platforms that didn't have the user base to really prove that there was an appetite for this type of viewing experience. And then beyond that, it was the involvement of the publishers. So I think Riot probably first really took a top-down approach, and I think the story goes that they look at their marketing budget and said, we're going to run a pro league with those dollars instead because it'll create all sorts of great content. And quickly that went from a cost center to an actual profit center. And then the model for running top-down esports leagues from the publisher side was proven.
Laura, what do you think about that? Do you think it's sort of what do you think about the rise of esports?
Well, I happen to agree. I think the streamcast with Twitch has been phenomenal, but also I think it's also been more organic, that it's coming directly from the esports world versus coming from the traditional sports world and the production world and the way that we normally do things on the traditional side, and that who's driving it are basically those that are already the gamers. They're the ones that are playing, and of course, right now, currently, the ones that are driving it, of course, are the publishers and the streamers.
And so this is going to be more directed to you, Laura,
Sure.
but obviously, Shane, feel free to pitch in. In terms of a marketing standpoint, what do you think esports has been so good at in terms of marketing and sponsorship, and in terms of marketing itself? What do you think they've been so good at? Because they, I would say maybe 5, maybe 10 years ago, it was almost non-existent, and now it's become so big. What do you think they've been so good at?
Well, I think maybe I could actually start with what they're not good at.
Yes, of course.
So what I see a lot of is corporations and companies and organizations, sort of the bigger ones versus the niche organizations that are trying to stuff traditional marketing down the throat of the audience. And they're really not meeting the audience expectation. So those that are good, and the Riots of the world and BlizzCon that just occurred in Asia, is they're doing it from an organic level, a grassroots level, and they're focusing really on the play, on the streamcast, on the players themselves versus sort of the traditional marketing way.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing that most of the industry is being supported right now by those sponsorship dollars. So obviously doing well, but in contrast to the size of the audience, I think there's still lots of room for improvement. The media value of both the reach at large, but also the amount of influence that the individual creators have, it can't be compared to linear television advertising, right? It's far more targeted, and in this case, we're reaching an audience that's always been really difficult to reach, which is that kind of honeypot for traditional advertisers. 18 to 34-year-old males with more females coming into the space now, but again, with a much more interactive method of reaching them. So I think you're right. We talk about authenticity all the time in the industry, but some of the big brands are starting to do a great job of it. McDonald's had an awesome campaign in Europe last month, which resonated with me as a Counter-Strike player. It was just authentic, and because it was authentic, it got a lot of love on social media, and so the free earned media value they got as a result of that, speaks volumes to how important it is to make sure that you are coming out with authentic campaigns.
And I mean, deals are being signed almost every day. Just as we met up today, Shane, we learned about this Nike deal with the PPL, am I correct?
LPL.
LPL,
Yeah,
and I mean, that's just enormous, especially coming from Nike. They've done so much this year, and now they're even heading into esports. Yeah. How important do you think that deals are, for example, this last E-Champions League? I mean, that was a pretty big deal because it's actually sponsored by UEFA, which is a sport entity that is so huge worldwide. How important do you think that is in terms of recognizability, maybe even towards the 2K League, et cetera? That's more directed towards you, Shane. How important do you think it is to be recognized really by those kinds of entities?
I mean, they lend tons of credibility, of course, right? I grew up in an era where we were watching Counter-Strike teams be competing in tournaments through third parties, and that industry emerged, and now you have really large tournament operators that have been able to come out of that. But when you look at a game like NBA 2K, and all of a sudden you have a pro league come out of nowhere, run from the top down by the NBA, it gives all sorts of credibility. NBA 2K wasn't a proven model; it didn't grow organically. It had a really small pro-am scene prior to this, but the results of season 1 from the NBA 2K League were amazing. I mean, it just goes to show that if you have either publisher or, in this case, traditional sports league support from the top down, the possibility for the quality of the entertainment is enormous. And the audience, there was 645,000 unique viewers on the NBA 2K League finals. I mean, that absolutely crushes anything prior to that. Crazy. So it's a little bit of a build it and they will come, and I think that's counterintuitive to what a lot of people in the industry think is, but you can't force a game into becoming an esport, and that would be true with H1Z1, which just announced the closure of their pro league. So there's a bit of both. And
so, Laura, you were talking about what esports have not necessarily been very good at. If you were, this is obviously kind of an original question, but if you could compare esports almost to a university student that's sort of like trying to build itself, what sort of advice would you give esports in terms of marketing aspect and how to brand itself?
Yeah. Well, I think Twitch is doing it very well. Twitch has a university program and where they teach university students how to build your site, how to build your page, how to build your audience, even how to sell merchandise, how to generate revenue. I think one of the most difficult things that anyone's finding, especially with the linear or the more traditional sports in particular, that have esports, is that what they call path to profit. So this is first and foremost getting the university students to start to use the platforms and start to create clubs, have curriculum in the schools, and then to be able to be involved themselves is really what they should be doing.
Well, we really appreciate you coming in. That's all the time we have, unfortunately, for today.
Earlier this week, our friends over at the Swish List sat down with us to play some NBA 2K19. Make sure to stay tuned because that's coming up next and you won't want to miss it.
Winter in Sweden. Cold, dark, and dreary. Ideal conditions to stay inside. Welcome to DreamHack Winter.
That's the way
As I was
talking
saying,
a lot to be able to.
I'm not losing another game. I feel like. Hello, my name is Jameson Schultz Franco.
I'm Jesse Georgie, Matthew Winning.
And we're the Swish List, Fridays 11 to 12 on spiritlive.ca. Today we're going to be picking our predictions of who we think is going to win the biggest end of the NBA season awards. And I'll be playing with them in NBA Blacktop. We'll see how we match up.
I got my money on Jameson here. Yeah, I see, like, I think people just assume because I'm the most, like, I don't even know what I am.
I picked an 80 because it's just a height advantage.
The height is not against Giannis. Giannis is taller, or they're the same height.
And it's also just like he's a big man. As you saw, my first 2 points were a 3. I mean, I'm not a great 2K player. I'm really not. I can tell you that now. But I can be sweaty enough in the paint with Davis that hopefully I can pull it a win.
I cannot see Giannis getting.
No! That's disgusting. That's disgusting. That's gross.
Let me put him in his place.
Yeah, thank you.
Why did that just happen? Kawhi Leonard can't do that. I'll be honest with you. I've watched the 2K League a lot, and I just feel like whenever I watch them, tough shot. No! Whenever I watch the 2K League, I don't know. I watch them. I'm like, I feel like they're not as good as they should be. Oh, you're gonna say as good as I am. I feel like they're definitely better than me, but I feel like I can compete with them. But like that being said, in terms of esports in general, I watch a lot of esports like Overwatch, League of Legends, and I feel like that's like watching them play. I'm like, there's no way I could ever play on their level. Like some of the Overwatch teams, like especially for example, like South Korea's Overwatch team is like it's like something out of the movie. Like there's a bunch of teams that have good, solid teams. Like Canada actually has a pretty good Overwatch team, but whenever you play South Korea, it's over.
The Raptors Uprising team was like nowhere near the playoff picture, and then won their last 5 games and made it. Oh, that was really block it.
Of course.
And then like won their last 5 games and made it to the playoffs, which was like pretty cool. Like it's so competitive. And also something I didn't realize until like maybe a week ago was that they didn't actually use real players, and they were like their own my players that they upgraded on their own time. And I fully thought they were just like as the Raptors and like played as Kyle Lowry and whatever not, but
That's pretty cool. That.
Well, I do.
To think you don't have to know things.
Like, I just beat both of you, so.
Yeah.
I can't even beat my little brother at this game. I just beat both of you.
Okay.
You want to play against Jesse first?
Sure.
Shooting for Trae Young.
No.
I'm gonna like he's just some. I love shooters. It's what the NBA is becoming, a 3-point shooting league, and I know this is what Matthew's gonna do this entire game. So I'm gonna have to nail some threes, but we'll make it happen.
DeAndre Ayton. Whoa! What was that?
I've never even seen that. Are you just pressing random buttons?
Yeah, I'm pressing random buttons.
What are you
It's too
inside?
big, man. Like, I don't think anyone should have over an 80 without playing a game in this league. Why does that keep happening?
Man, this is a nasty move, man. They progress ratings as they go along as their player in their play game. That's good, because I think if they're progressing their ratings as we go on.
What I will say though, if we were playing the 7, I would.
But we were playing win by 2, which I asked, and I was actually winning. So
I know, but I'm just saying, if we were playing the 7, I would have won.
Europeans fade, man. That's the thing.
Okay.
Actually, name me a European that hasn't faded.
I'm excited to kind of see where it goes, to see if those kinds of players ever start making as much as like real athletes.
Wait, what? There's a shot clock. Let's go, baby! I did not know there was a shot clock.
It'll be interesting to see kind of where esports goes, but I think it's definitely on its way up. It's just gonna get better.
No! Out of here, boy! No! Oh! Okay, I can't see, first of all, and screw you, because I just blocked you and hit a 3 in your eye.
In my eye. I was on the opposite side of the court.
I don't care.
Jeez, man. Stop trying to make jokes, bro. That was terrible.
I mean, I laughed. So.
Watch an NBA game or any type of like sporting event and thought like, oh yeah, I'm on that level. Never. So I just think with sports, it's just a different level.
Yeah.
I think something that 2K can improve on is take a lot of pages out of my favorite NBA video game of all time, which is NBA The Life 06. It's a great game. NBA The Life is not like NBA Live or NBA 2K. It's NBA The Life 06. Because a lot of stuff they did was pre-draft stuff. Like you go through drills and more drills, and then there's like TV analysts that say, are they going to go higher or lower? And it's a lot of fun. It's really tough to sort of nail down this pick, but when I'm right at the end of the year, I think I should get an extra point. So.
Point what?
Well, I don't know. Point just for being right.
There's no points for being right in your life.
I mean, that's not true.
That's what I was thinking, but I don't know.
That's ridiculous.
Let's go.
Who won the second one out of curiosity?
It is.
So if Jesse wins this, then everyone's won something, and that sucks.
Just when there's two companies making a basketball game, it makes both of them want to try harder. It makes both of them want to make a better game. And right now, just the way 2K has been dominating the league, it's not to say that 2K is not putting effort into making their games, but they know no matter what that people are going to buy 2K over NBA Live. But yeah, just whenever there's two companies really going hard at it, I think that's when the best comes out of both games, to be honest.
Just warning you, Jesse, if you foul enough, you'll become cold and won't be able to make a single shot.
I already can't make me.
Let's go, baby!
So Jesse, you went 0 for 3 in competitions after
when
saying you were the best
When you guys
player.
want to run 5s, hit me up.
All right, well, if you're curious about basketball and you liked what you saw today, check us out on spiritlive.ca on Fridays. Our show time is 11 a.m. to 12. It'll be entertaining, I can guarantee you. Or we are missing one member of our crew, Nathaniel N.J. Johnson. He's there on the show. He's a big piece of our team, but couldn't make it today. Thank you so much for having us on the show, guys.
Recently, our team had the privilege of speaking to former Ryerson Esports Vice President. Despite a tough upbringing, he has found success through hard work and dedication. Here is Sebastian Martin Schultz.
My name is Sebastian Martin Schultz. I'm the former Vice President of Ryerson Esports. I currently work at the Score Esports as a content creator, and I've been involved with esports for the past 2 to 3 years. So I started gaming as early as I can remember, to be honest. I had a bit of a rough childhood, so I kind of moved from home to home a lot. and my solace was always just playing video games, from racing games to shooters to platformers, all that kind of stuff. I was really, grown up on video games. It was my escape. When I went to foster care, I played a lot, and eventually I found my way into Counter-Strike when I was really young. And I put so much of my time in that game, and it really kind of was a home away from home kind of thing. It allowed me to escape from all the stuff that was going on. Getting into the community isn't really hard because it's games that we all play, but in terms of if you want to work in it, it's a real grind. I think working in esports is one of the more grindy industries because it is relatively fresh and new. You'll find yourself breaking your back at so many events just to get your foot in the door. For me, I put in a lot of volunteer hours, like a lot. Just not only because I loved this industry, but I just find it so fascinating and interesting. The person I've both worked with, but also have looked up to would be Joseph Raimondo. He's the current president of Ryerson Esports. Me and him we worked together to essentially build Ryerson Esports from scratch, and he's continuously been one of my closest friends in esports. And we're both so passionate about the industry, and we've both taught each other so much that, I can't imagine, being in the industry without him. And I think personally, the fact that we're able to essentially pull Ryerson Esports out from the grave and be able to build it to what it is today as like the standard esports figure at Ryerson University it was amazing for me. It was a great experience.
Whenever I need his opinion on stuff, especially like content side, I always go to him and ask him for help with like editing or like producing stuff. Like the stuff he's doing is amazing, and I really respect that. But I've been lucky that we have an amazing team. We're so diverse as well that the club is really, really strong right now.
Getting engaged with the community is one of the most important things that you can do when playing a game and contributing to a game. And the competitive stuff comes later. You can get into its esports scene as much as you want, but I mean, the most important thing is get involved with this community, and I think you will find new friends, you'll get new experiences that I think you'll hold forever.
And make sure to stay tuned for our Misplays of the Month. Trust me, you don't want to miss these. Coming up after this quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
More fighters, more battles, more fun. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, only on Nintendo Switch.
Welcome back to Joystick Jam. This month has been full of esports misplays and cringy moments just like we love them. So let's get right into it. As great as the World Championship was, it certainly didn't get off to a great start with this awful miscommunication.
What's up, guys?
And here's Comedy Shorts Gamer's attempt at humor.
Shout out to Twitch for illegally streaming our fight. Yeah!
I don't know what's worse, that or his FIFA skills. We now go to esports. Teams are tight, mid-group. But we didn't know they were that tight. And here's Rizrope doing things only he can do.
S2J. Let's get S2J up here. Give it up, give it up.
What is it with esports players and failing handshakes? And lastly, I don't think I've ever wanted to be a sandwich less than I do right now.
And as fun as this has been, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today.
Yes, from the esports awards to the UEFA Champions League announcement, and of course, Thomas's fluke win, this has truly been a crazy week in esports. But that doesn't stop here, Thomas, so make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitch at Joystick Jam for daily posts, including exclusive gameplay and most importantly, even more of me.
Wow, Brainy, that sure is a fire way to get people not to follow us. As always, thank you so much for watching. It has been an absolute pleasure. And this has been Joystick Jam. I'm Thomas DeBost. He thinks he's funny. And we'll see you next time.